Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Terrific Tuesday, baby. That's it. It's Terrific Tuesday, and you're looking absolutely terrific. And what are we talking about in this video, which is video 2 of 2? Now, there may be more stuff that happen between when you see this, or, I'm filming this now. So we're talking about what has happened up to this video. So if something massive happens later on, then things have changed. But we're talking about rioting because the UK has got riots all over the place, these cities, and, where there's unrest and anger, frustration. But they're putting it down to racist people. They're putting it down to these right-wing groups, these, far rights. What was it, EDL the other day, who I don't even think they've fucking existed for God knows how long. But, you know what media is like. When media get hold of something, they put a certain spin on it because they don't want people to kind of understand the truth. They don't want people to be able to look at a situation and decipher what the real problem is. And look, maybe I don't know what the real problem is. I have a pretty good idea what's going on here, and it's like everything. Things happen when people get pushed and pushed and pushed, and they eventually pop, but they need something to blame it on. It doesn't mean that what they're using as an excuse is the real reason. It's just that people have been pushed and seen things happen for far too long that they lose their patience, and then there's a catalyst event or a catalyst situation that sparks something somewhere, and then everybody else jumps on the bandwagon and starts having a pop as well. Because I think what's happened over the last few years in England, and this ain't just England, so when I'm talking about England because I live in England, okay, and I'm not saying that we are the only people suffering from this issue, because we certainly fucking ain't. And British people do love a fucking moan as well. But what is happening is, I'm 44 years old, and life as we know it has massively changed. And my mentality has always been, surely as the world progresses, as you head on this journey through time, things should get easier. You should see, like, food manufacturing get more sophisticated, so it makes it easier, so they can produce more at a lower cost, so then that gets passed on to the consumer and things become cheaper. But it hasn't, and it doesn't. What is actually happening is, over the years, things become exponentially more expensive, and that's absolutely everything. Absolutely everything, from the food you put in your mouth to the things that you want to do as recreational things when you get that little bit of time. And to be honest, the time that you now get for recreational purposes is now being shrunk down so much because people are having to work so many hours just to pay for the fundamentals. And I think what is happening is people are becoming more and more and more angry. And that's the underlying issue here. It's not so much that a situation like we saw with these young children that were sadly, their lives were cut short in this attack. It was a heinous, heinous act. It truly was. But that isn't what these riots are all about. It isn't. Not in my opinion. This is about a society that is fed up and has been ready to pop for some time. With everybody is so far done so well to try and bottle it up and cap it and compartmentalize all of the issues of not being able to afford their bills, having to work so much in jobs that they fucking hate, and they watch their kids and their kids ain't got nothing to do, and they're going and getting involved in shit that they shouldn't be getting involved in because they want to earn money, and the parents are frustrated because they can't afford to give the kids what they have. But then you've got social media that's ramming it down everyone's throat that this is how you should be living, this is how you can live. And it's just become, like I say, just an absolute melting pot of people becoming more and more and more and more angry. And I said to someone the other day, I said, I'm surprised there hasn't been a civil war, because things happen, and then what will then happen is people will look at someone to blame. And what's the easiest thing to blame the situation on in the UK? And that isn't like the government. It's the people that have come into the country and exponentially grown the how many people we have in this country. You know, the population has exploded over the last 20 years. So people will see that as that's the issue. That is the issue. And they will then try and, when something like this happens, there is how can I say, there are groups of people who will blame this person, and that ain't your problem. That ain't the problem here. Like, don't get me wrong, there are situations where the NHS, for instance, which is a bone of contention for many people in the UK, when you've got British people who are born and bred in England, and that something happens, they try and get into the doctors and they can't. They try and go into A&E and they can't. There's 8 and 9 and 10 hour waits, or they've got children on waiting lists, and you know, people who believe they've got cancer and are getting on waiting lists for years. That there's people who are dying because the waiting lists are so long. And you can see my point. The point is here that then these people are then looking for people to blame. They're looking for people to blame, and it festers. It sits underneath and it festers. They look at their lives and they're not happy, and then they reach out and they want to blame someone. And then that's what you're seeing all over the country. You're seeing people who are pissed off, fed up. They don't know any better, so they then attack. They go on the attack. This pent-up anger and aggression at the state of their lives, and it blows up into this. And look, I could be completely wrong. But I don't think so. I just think that there are many, many people in the UK who are sick of their life in this country. They're sick of the costs rising all the time. They're sick of the bills rising all the time. And I'm not saying that what they're doing is warranted, because it isn't warranted. That absolutely isn't warranted. And all of these people involved in these things, they should be held accountable for their actions, because it just doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anyone. It's not going to change anything. In fact, it will probably make things worse. But there is no answer to this. This is about governments who run the country not running them properly, and they're not being held accountable. They're not being held accountable for what they're doing. You know, like the Brexit argument here. Who in their fucking right mind thought that leaving the European Union was a good idea? Who genuinely thought that was a good idea? How can people feel that being in a consortium of, a group that can together trade equally and get the rewards that being part of that reap, to come away from it and stand alone? That's idiocy. Sadly, that's idiocy, because you've got to think to yourself, all right, so if we just stand on our own, everybody's going to want to do a deal with us. But that was the government's fault for trying to trick the public into thinking that was a good idea, when in reality it wasn't a good idea. And this is now the repercussions of that. And they have, again, gone on top of what already existed as problems. And people thought that was going to get them out of the problem. It's like what we've now seen with the Conservative Party. You know, the Conservative Party have been in power for so long, and we've had so many issues, that people have now decided that the way to get out of that issue was to vote Labour in. Fuck me, people have got a short memory, and now we're starting to see how that is going to pan out. And it ain't going to pan out any different. There isn't going to be any eureka moment where everything now starts to get better. But the thing is what is going to happen in this country? People are fed up. Power companies, I've touched on this before, we're getting hammered for our energy bills, while they simultaneously post and rub in our faces via the social media and mainstream media that they have got their record profits. You know, we're hearing this far too often. Our costs as a consumer are going up, and simultaneously companies, their profits are going up, and the people involved in them, with their 200 and $200 million and pounds salaries of the CEOs of these businesses, and we hear that these companies aren't paying taxes. People are just pissed off, and this ain't going to get no better. This it's all over the country now. It's all over the world because people have had enough, and they just needed an excuse. Just need an excuse. But what's next? Let me know down below what you think about it all. Am I right, or am I hugely off? Because it could be. Could be other things, but I don't think I'm that far off. Let me know how you feel, and I'll catch you on the next one.